Was this intentional? Is this what the others wanted? Were they trying to break her?
There's a term for that. It's learned helplessness. She can't do anything. She's just like, I'm stuck.
I think we're going to be leaning in on more of your animal training expertise a little bit more in this episode, because I do think there's some stuff going on.
Oh yeah. Oh, I do as well.
Today, Mark and I are talking about the hit science fiction series Pluribus, episode 7, The Gap.
So spoilers are ahead.
We're seeing what Carol has been up to since she got back from Vegas.
We are taking a trip down to South America and following Manousos on his daring journey.
And then doubling back on Carol after a little bit more time to see the lows that she's sunk to.
And on Monday, December 15th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, we are doing another live show on Pluribus. We hope to see you there.
All right, let's get into the episode. Let's dive in with Carol, the very beginning. She's humming End of the World. And She feels fine.
Does she feel fine? Because it cuts off at the F, which also could be she feels effed, you know? And I think it was a perfect cut right there. Overall, I loved all of the songs that were playing or that she was singing, because I felt like all of them were really relevant to what was going on and what was happening in Carol's world, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly how I kind of felt. And to me, the songs, they felt more like a mantra, you know? Mm-hmm. Like she was saying it because she wanted to believe it, you know? She plays I Will Survive at the end, you know, and she's like singing that it's the end of the world, but she feels fine. There's another song I didn't recognize, you know, where the lyrics started off with like, I'm all right.
That's Born to Be Wild. I'm all right. And it says, there's the one line in there that kind of like feels a little bit loaded towards the join, where she says,
okay,
take the world in a love embrace. So it's like her dealing with this new world and like her new world of being alone. And she's kind of taking this in a loving embrace, but also the join takes this whole world in a loving embrace. So like every song was just like, perfect.
They really were. And I felt the same way with like Tarzan Boy, where it was, you know, feeding into some of what's going on with them. But like with some of the lyrics, like it really felt like she was trying to like tell herself, I'm doing great. I'm living my best life. I'm independent, while I like shout orders into this phone in a very non-independent way. Like, right. You know, but
I want it cold. Yeah.
It felt like she was trying to convince herself, or like, you know, she could like will it into being. So like I said, with like Tarzan Boy, it's kind of like finding freedom, adventure, self-discovery in a wild, untamed life, using the Tarzan myth to represent escaping civilization, embracing spontaneity, even while hinting at longing for connection. You know, so it's...
And all of these songs, you know what they kind of like made me think of in this world? So
What's
like
that?
When she drove to Vegas and drives back, you know, like there's no radio anymore. Like,
right.
Who's running the radio stations? They don't feel like they need to run the radio stations. Like internet is kind of out the window too. Like nobody's running the internet. Like they don't need it. So they're like, why have the internet? We are the internet. So like with her, you know, she probably doesn't have like a phone that has like downloaded music and can connect Bluetooth to this car. So she like probably drove in silence for most of it, or like listened to one CD over and over again until it just got boring. And so like,
right.
In this weird way, she kind of has to fill this void of like music by, you know, first singing herself, or then like later on having to put CDs, which we haven't done in, you know, X amount of years. And I thought it was just like, it makes the world also feel a little bit more isolated and lonely.
Yeah, and it's such a great in-world excuse for having music that's happening in the world that very much connects with the moments that are going on. I feel like when I have gone through extremely emotional portions of my life that I've like curated music that like really speaks to what I'm going through. You know, music can really resonate with emotions on a certain level and can be kind of cathartic, and that's feels like she's like curated this playlist of the things that resonate with her current life right now the most. And so that's such kind of an interesting way to kind of get that window into what's going on in her head.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and yes, that was totally highlighted, like what you were saying with Survive, like on that piano. Like,
yes,
it finally felt like Carol has been very frustrated with the joined. You know, she's very like, we got to fix this, we got to change this. And then like having that, like, I will survive. Like, you know, at first she was afraid, you know, she was petrified, and then she will survive. And like, I think that dinner kind of told her, she's like, I got this. Like, there's a little uneasiness when she's eating. She's like, wow, it's a little too quiet. Then she puts on that song, and I think that was like her, I'm gonna make it through this. And then and we'll get to later, but yeah. poor Carol.
Yeah. I also thought, you know, absolutely phenomenal acting, because I think there's something very awkward and very vulnerable about doing these kind of singing scenes, because this was like the kind of carefree singing that you do when nobody can hear or see you. You know, it wasn't always like completely on key. It wasn't like perfect. They weren't perfect representations of the song. Like she didn't, it's the kind of way where if you like turned a corner and you saw like the whites of somebody's eyes, you would instantly stop out of embarrassment.
Oh, yeah. That's the only singing I do in the shower. I only do that in the shower where nobody can hear, or the occasional, sometimes I do it here because I forget we're recording, you know?
That's got to be so tough to do in front of the directors, the PAs, like the person, you know, holding the microphones, like all of these different positions staring at you while you do something very like raw and very kind of like personal and embarrassing. And I know this may sound funny, because this isn't like the worst thing. This isn't, you know, like, you know, your worst moment, but it is something you don't want people to see.
It's vulnerable.
And it's vulnerable. And, you know, like I enjoy singing, but I definitely like do goofy stuff with myself. If a bunch of people were watching, I would try and like, you know, straighten up and do like my best, you know,
right.
And that's gotta be awkward to like really let it out. And while everybody's watching, do something in the way that you would do if none of them were there. You know?
And honestly, that kind of like speaks to the character of Carol, of like not what Ray Seahorn went through, but like she's at a point where there is nobody there. Like she can sing and like sing terribly. Not that I thought she sang terribly. I thought she actually did a pretty good job. But like, yes, she felt Carol Sturka felt like she had a freedom to be able to sing. Nobody's going to hear her. She can sing on the golf cart. She can sing, you know, in a hot springs while being naked, you know, and just singing in the museum. Like, so I do feel like she felt a little bit freer while also feeling a little bit lonelier.
Yeah. And I think Vegas really hurt her. I think learning all that she's done, that she thought she had this, like we mentioned in the last episode, you know, she thought she had the smoking gun, and then she just has like the wind taken out of her sail when he like beats her to the punch, and the others explain it in a way that tries to make it not seem so horrible. And then she also finds out that they've been having these Zoom calls without her, that like literally 11 of the 13 survivors don't want to have any contact with her. She even thinks that the other one, Manousos, doesn't want to have anything to do with her. So she really thinks that she's like completely left out. She didn't expect it to be that bad with like the Zoom calls without her. And she had this big direction before, right? Mm-hmm. She thought she was going to like find the cure. She, you know, was doing all this investigating. And now it seems like she's embracing a little bit of like Kumba's lifestyle.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, like totally. Like she kind of, she goes to that fancy restaurant. She dresses herself up. She, like Kumba, taking the Elvis Presley suite. She takes the actual Georgia O'Keeffe painting, like can go to the hot springs on her own, takes whatever car. Like I do feel like she was almost like relinquishing this goal of like trying to change everybody and like a can't beat him, join him kind of way in the sense of like what Kumba was doing. And so she's like, okay, I can't beat him. I'm fine without them. I don't like them. So I'm just going to kind of like a very lower version of Kumba's lifestyle, but kind of, able to pick out a nice car where the little hood ornament goes up and down. And she started embracing a little bit of a lavish lifestyle.
Yeah. I think it's like defeated acceptance. It's not what she wanted. It's not, she's not accepting this on her terms. It's kind of like there's no other option. Like she doesn't see another way. Everything that she tried up to this point didn't work. Like what's left?
There's a term for that. It's learned helplessness. She's can't do anything. She's just like, I'm stuck. And this term comes from like a terrible experiment that happened, way back when experiments were a little bit crazier. But basically the way that it is was like this mouse was in a cage and they would shock the floor and they would let the mouse be able to do things to stop the shock. But at a certain point, everything it did would not stop the shock. And so it basically like gives up. It's that learned helplessness. It just stops trying and they give up. They just don't do anything and they just accept the shocks. It's really unfortunate and really sad.
I think we're going to be leaning in on more of your animal training expertise a little bit more in this episode, because I do think there's some stuff going on.
Oh yeah. Oh, I do as well. But before we get there, let's talk about our boy Manousos.
Yes.
And what I loved about the beginning of Manousos' story is it felt like such a parallel to Carol's story, right? The very first time the Join started contacting Carol, they were worried about her being hydrated enough. And just like Manousos, carrying the can, they bring up him being hydrated. Like they don't want him to exert himself. And as he's driving through, we hear, Hola, Manousos, when we hear hi, Carol. And it's just like these double parallels that were happening. Yet the characters, Carol is very mean, brash, yelling at them. And I think Manousos, he doesn't treat the others negatively, which I think speaks to like his character. Like we see a lot of what he does, like as he siphons the gas, he puts in the money. Like Manousos deep down is like a good character. He's never mean to the others. He just ignores them.
I definitely see the parallels now that you say that. What I kind of thought of is like, if you think of a spectrum, I kind of see Manousos on one end of the spectrum. I see Kumba on the other end of the spectrum, and I see Carol somewhere in the middle.
Maybe closer to Manousos.
Maybe. I don't. Okay, so if you think about like Kumba, he like engages them to the extreme. He's willing to like use the system to its absolute fullest to get whatever it is that he wants in life. He has zero kind of qualms about that. Versus, I think that Carol understands that she needs to engage the system, or at least that's what she's come to in her head, is that she needs to engage the system. And so she feels like she's doing it on her terms. And up until this episode, it has felt like her doing it because unless you already prepared for like living as a hermit, like you can't live without any assistance. You just don't have the like setup for it. So she needs them for certain things.
Sure.
I think up until now, she's kind of like, she's engaged, but it's like to a certain extent. Whereas like Manousos is on the extreme of not even wanting to engage. And I see another kind of parallel with this, like the extremes of it. We'll get into that in just a little bit of, where I see Kumba on one end and I see, Manousos on the very far end of that.
Yeah. And to your point, I think that Manousos is very resilient because,
He is.
He is so against having any help from the join, any contact, just any reliance on them. And so, we see him fishing, he's collecting his own water, he is teaching himself English, like he is doing all of the steps to like not have to rely on them and not need what they are offering, because he says it great. He's like, you can't give me anything because everything you have is stolen. And that also speaks to that his character. Like, he is so principled. He won't take things from these joined because he believes they've stolen everything. And even when he takes, like gas, he puts a bill note on every car.
Yep.
And that's him thinking like, we will get back to normal. There will be like consequences. And I am so principled. Like I even feel bad for taking gas.
I don't know if he necessarily thinks that we're going to get back to normal. It might just be like that's how principled he is he's the type of person that will do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because anybody's watching, and not even if it really matters at this point. Like, I think he's figured out by this point that pretty much everybody has turned. I think he learned that there's like 13 others.
Yeah,
so there's like
Carol's
only
video.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he learned that there's like only 13 others like him. And I don't know if he believes that he can turn them back or not.
But when he watched Carol's video, Carol said they can't lie, and I know there is a way to turn them back. And so Manousos, and that's why you see him in the jungle. He says, "My name is Manousos Ovidio. I wish to save the world." Like, or I'm not one of them. I wish to save the world. And I think he believes that he can save the world and he needs just one other person to help him. And that's Carol Sturka. I think he thinks he can do it.
I do think that he thinks he can save the world, but he didn't say, there's a lot he hasn't said. And I don't know what he means by saving the world. Okay, so let's get back to this line of, Manousos on one side, Kumba on the other side, Carol somewhere in the middle. And let's look at like how they want to save the others. Kumba does want to save them from starvation so he can continue to lead this life. I honestly don't know. I don't think he wants to save them from the joining, from this change that has happened to them. I honestly don't even know if one of them were to like whisper in his ear, like, I want out, if that would change his mind of like, ooh, what if others feel like this? I think the only thing that he potentially wants is like to save them from starving. Carol wants to save them by turning them. She doesn't just want to save them from starving. She's like, what they're going through is wrong, and I believe I can fix them. I believe I can turn them. But there are just a few things that Manousos have said that makes me wonder whether or not he wants to turn them or not. He says, nothing on this planet is yours. You don't belong here. He tells the person that we are pretty sure is, his mom's body, you are not my mom. Not like you're changed. You're not how I remember you. I get the impression that he might think the right thing is to get rid of them, to like get them to leave, and or to end them.
No, see, I don't get that from him.
But the cool thing is he hasn't made it clear.
True, he hasn't made it clear. But my impression is, as soon as he heard Carol say that this is reversible, like when he says that you don't belong here, to me it feels like he thinks something has gotten in their mind. And whether that is like a demon possessing them or, something taking over, an alien species that's infected them, a parasite.
Right.
I think he thinks he can get that out of people. And that's why, like, you see things like where he writes the note to say like, I'm sorry that I took your stuff. Because if he knows that there's only 13 people, right, and he wants to exterminate everybody, why would he leave bill notes on the cars if he doesn't think that these people will come back?
That's what I was saying. Is like, I really think he is that principled. Stealing is wrong. It doesn't matter that the people that own these don't exist anymore. They still aren't his things, and he is not going to steal them. He will pay for them.
But when you're paying something, you are expecting to give tender to somebody, right? There is that like, because like if you don't expect anybody to come back and to do that, like money doesn't matter. Why pay them? Like, so to me, I don't think he's so principled that he's just like, you know, I'm going to put a bill note here because I took some gas. Because like, what is that ultimately accomplishing? Like, to me, it's like that hope that like,
what does going through the Darien Gap accomplish?
Well, he's trying to get to Carol.
But he's not going to. He's going to die. He's so principled that he will do the right thing, even if it kills him, versus saving the world. Like, is the Darien Gap the thing that you refuse to accept help on this one strip?
Well, but see, I think that's so principled of that he is so distrusting of this joined group that he is willing to risk his life to get to Carol Sturka than say like, hey, I need your help through this. Like they even offer him exactly what he wants. We'll get you to Carol Sturka. And this might also be a little bit of like too principled for Manousos, because like we see that like this was, you know, probably like 15 to 20 days into this, because we see him at the start of the journey at, you know, 12 days. And he's so like, I want to get there, that he risks his life, ultimately doesn't make it. And so then Carol, you know, is out 48 days later, still not met Manousos. And so like, he's so principled in the fact that he's like, I'm not going to use them for anything. I don't trust them. They're not unnatural. They don't belong here. I'm willing to risk my life, even though it's a fool's errand that I might not make it there. Even though people have crossed the Darien Gap before, it's very treacherous. People probably lost their lives in the Darien Gap.
A lot of people have lost their lives. Yeah.
So like, he's so principled of like, I will not use you guys for anything. I'm going to just go. And his final words as he's like dying is Carol Sturka, because that was his like, I need to get to Carol, because like Carol's the one that said it is changeable, it is fixable. Why is he so focused to getting to Carol if he's wanting to get rid of these people? I think he believes he can save the people ultimately.
I love this. Like, I love the fact
so
that it's up for interpretation. You know, it's like, who knows what is going through his head? He hasn't, there weren't a lot of words in this episode, right?
No.
You know, like Carol is singing to herself. Manousos is practicing broken English. We see what you mentioned, the like parallels with like Carol and the joined. In this case, it's like the joined talking to Manousos, but I don't know, those aren't normal people. So that's not exactly like normal speech.
Right.
There's so little of it. And so you really have to like take all of the context clues and come to the best conclusion that you possibly can. And who knows if it's right or not, and who knows what of it will be revealed. I definitely think we'll find out like what Manousos' intent is, but some of the things will never be like completely elaborated.
Oh yeah.
And they will be left for us.
I did love the scene of Manousos traveling, just like everything with Manousos. Like,
I loved it. The music was great.
The music was great. He's such a badass. It gave me like vibes of, you know, Indiana Jones, where you see the map where he's traveling while he's traveling to these different places. Also, shout out to Quito, because that's where I'm going in Ecuador in a couple weeks. And so I saw he drove through Quito. And so just want to give a shout out to Quito.
That's awesome. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was like such a well done section. The Darien Gap was, I think, really interesting for me because it almost feels like a great metaphor for either the current world that we live in or like the new world as it is, because it's such a complicated topic as to what has been built up to this point, what hasn't been built, and why. And, you know, there's been a lot of things that have prevented it from being built. And I think that, like, for, you know, safe passage to be built. And some of that comes down to, like, you know, competing interests, which something like the joined can totally fix, you know, where like we can live in harmony and like choose to like do things together and not have the worries of, like, you know, drug trafficking is like one of the reasons that you potentially don't want to complete this. But then on the other side of things, you also kind of see that like one of the reasons that it hasn't been completed is also because of a lack of want from like the indigenous people that live there. And while the others totally could build safe passage, they wouldn't harm a place like this. Like, it is got so much, you know, life in it that this is something that they would 1,000% leave untouched.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just kind of interesting. And then, you know, it's sad all the people that have died there. So it was cool kind of like highlighting this area.
Yeah. And so like I mentioned before, so I'm going out, not to the Darien Gap, but I am going to Ecuador, deep into the Amazon, to do some field research. So the biodiversity there is probably some of the most biodiverse place on the planet. And so, yeah, the join would totally leave that untouched. Like, they would probably bring a lot of those people out of there, you know, and just let it be wild and let the natural world and the natural biodiversity just flourish in there. And it was really great to see. And I'm getting excited for my trip, so it's also getting really excited to see like where I'm going to be, and like not to that extent of like where it's dangerous, but like very excited about, you know, seeing this and seeing Quito and going out that way.
Yeah. There was real beauty in that area. There was, like, nature is a beautiful but scary place. Like, that's, you know, that's why we like tamed the world we live in, is like to get rid of the danger. But in doing so, we've also kind of like mayonnaised the place, like made things, you know, just like much like more normal and like not as exciting.
Is mayonnaise a term for colonizing? You spread the mayonnaise across the world? And we've just us stupid white people have just colonized everything. Us idiots.
It's just not like a, you know, it's not like spicy, flavorful. It's not a combination of like all these things, you know. It's a very like simple. Anyways, so I thought this section was great, but let's leave it and let's get back into what Carol is doing.
Yeah, I feel like the jump, we see 48 days. She has spent a month on her own, and she seems broken.
It's interesting, though, the way that they first allude to it, because it's not immediately obvious. You know, she was golfing before.
Sure.
She's still golfing now, but it's in a very destructive way. Like, she is destroying the very place that she lives in, you know, and making it dangerous for herself to kind of be in. And so it's like, that's your first clue that like there's something wrong with her, if you didn't pick up on the clues before.
And also part of it, you know, now that she put that like a CD on, right? It's like the song has completely left out of her. Like, she was singing, and so like as she's, you know, taking the painting and all these other, you know, driving, she's got the song in her heart. And now it's like that song's taken out of her, and she's put on a CD, just going about her day. Like, even with the fireworks, right? Like, that was such a perfect example. Like, the first time with fireworks, she's singing, and then like as soon as these fireworks, she's got a CD next to her, she's melancholy. She doesn't look like she's enjoying it as much. We see the firework aimed at her and she's just like, all right, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, the fireworks scene is like such a huge contrast because, you know, before it was just the one firework, and yet she was like so engaged and so amped about it. And now it doesn't matter how many fireworks she surrounds herself, like nothing is going to be enough at this point, you know, and you don't see her enjoy one of those. Like she barely kind of looks up as the first one goes off. Such a wild difference.
And the first scene with the fireworks, I also think it was a little like another parallel of what's going on in her life, where the wolves are howling, so she wants to howl with the wolves, and then the wolves stop howling with her. It's almost like the pack left her, like the pack doesn't want to be with her. And just like the joined, she's not with them anymore. She's not engaging with them anymore. And so like that was like a little first clue of like she's on her own. She has to do this by herself. And even the wolves don't want to hang out with her. Like nobody wants to hang out with Carol.
Right.
Except Manousos.
And it does make me wonder, was this intentional? Is this what the others wanted? Were they trying to break her?
I mean, people are very social creatures, right?
Yes.
Like
yes.
we need touch, we need connection, we need like there's so much that we need that we get from other people. Even like when you're lonely and you're a hermit and you barely go outside, like just a little bit of communication, like as primates, as social creatures, we need that. And it's crazy because like certain primates, if they don't have social activities such as like grooming and, you know, these social hierarchies, like they don't do well. Like they do really poorly and they break. And so seeing Carol going through a similar issue, like it, you know, like at first you think, okay, they need a little bit of space. That's like a week, right. 2 weeks. They'll forgive her. They'll come back to her. Or they'll like reach out and try again. They waited like over a month. Like that is painful, like so painful.
There were two kind of things that it made me wonder. So it's like, you know, one is like, was this their goal? They know about animal training. They know about peoples and like how they work in social settings. Was this their goal when they realized that the way that they were traditionally trying to make her happy wasn't working, and the way that they needed to do it was like kind of rewire her.
Right.
And the best way to do that was like to make her want them. Yeah. And like want them back so that she could appreciate them. And like by doing that when they come back, that she would literally embrace them.
Yeah.
Like it felt like they were weaponizing their kindness. Like even when they, and it felt like animal training techniques, you know, it's like you've got an animal that is misbehaving and you can't control it. To a certain extent, any attention is good attention. And so, you know, one of the best things you can do in that situation is just remove yourself.
Yeah.
And make it so that like every time you do the bad stuff, like I'm not going to hit you, I'm not going to punish you because that's still attention and that's what you want is for me to engage with you. So I'm going to leave you and I'm going to do that every single time until you realize that like if you want my attention, you can't do that.
Right. In a weird way, it's like putting her on timeout, right? It's like, you're in timeout. We're not going to engage with you. You do not get anything from us. But like in a weird way, like, so maybe why I think maybe they aren't necessarily trying to do this intentionally.
Okay.
They technically were still answering all her calls. That is in a way giving her attention, right? It's not giving her physical attention, but you know, like, I want this, they give it to her. I want this, they give it to her. So they're like meeting all of her needs But still,
But
I
she
feel like
couldn't-
the social aspect of it is.
But the like robotic barriers in the way made it so that she couldn't appreciate those interactions. You know, the fact that whenever she called, she was getting an answering machine. So it's, you know, it's a recording. It's like, you know, it's electricity. It's not like a human on the other end. And so she doesn't get to interact with a human. And then when the thing comes, it's, you know, through
A drone.
you know, through a drone. It's not like a person brings it to you. And so while, yes, they are still working for her, they're still like working to take care of her needs, they're still being very kind.
Yeah.
To a certain, there is something that makes me kind of wonder about that, but to a certain extent, you can argue that like they still are being kind. You said in one of the earlier episodes that she liked to have these like quips on the phone of like saying something like, "You're not going to like this." You know,
Yeah.
she likes to get her stings in, and I think part of like being nasty is seeing that you hurt that person, is like getting that like, ooh, I got that like nice dig in, you know, and you get to see that like you scored a point, you know, one for me.
In the beginning of the episode, she says, I said ice cold Gatorade. This is tepid at best. Do better next time. She loves that.
She loves that, but like it doesn't change them. She doesn't get to see the reaction. It doesn't feel like a victory. And we only saw it once this episode. I feel like we saw that a few times in previous episodes where like she would do that multiple times, being kind of like nasty on the phone. And so it feels like the wind is being taken out of her sails and she's like not getting feedback from it. The reason I hesitate to about like saying that they're still being kind is solitary confinement is by many people considered to be cruel and unusual form of punishment.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what they're doing.
I mean, yeah, that's like what we do to people that are incarcerated, where they like get sent to the hole and they'll spend like days in there. And a lot of people disagree with that form.
I was going to say there's like questions about the morality about that, of whether or not you should have that as a form of punishment.
Yeah, because it is, like I said before, like we are extremely social creatures. When you remove that and you are alone and there's no internet, there's no radio, it's all just pre-recorded stuff like the Golden Girls or CDs, you are isolated. And that is that solitary confinement. And like they know that the others don't want to hang out with her, the other unjoined. They have all of the information in their head of like how social we are as like every anthropologist, every behaviorist in the joined. They know all of these, what this would do to her. And so part of me feels like, but like, okay, part of me feels like, yes, they are doing this intentionally, and maybe they think it's for the better good. Like they're concerned about their safety with Carol because she's such a wild card and she gets emotional. She gets upset. And so maybe it's like not necessarily like we're trying to break Carol because we want to teach Carol a lesson, but maybe it's a little bit of self-preservation. Like I want to do this to Carol because I am afraid of what she's going to do to us. Like it's, and this is what is the great part of it.
I know. It's like I love that so many of the secrets, like the surprises in this show aren't about what is coming next. It's, you know, it's that like ambiguity of what's going on that kind of makes you wonder what you actually viewed. Like, are the others good or not? We have such robust discussion in the comments about who is evil, who is not, like whether or not, like there's people that get pissed when they hear certain things and they're like, how could you say this, you know? Like, but the thing is, and the reason that I don't get pissed about any of the opinions is that I don't feel that any of it has been explicitly laid out. And so from my perspective, the best I can do is like piece together what I think is happening.
Sure.
And then from there, try and add my moral framework on top of that. And my moral framework may be different from other people's moral framework, but it's hard for me to say that somebody is wrong because like we may not agree on exactly what is happening. Like I absolutely love that about it. Is like there's so much you can really dig into.
Now I will say, part of me does lean that they were trying to break Carol.
Okay.
And only because when we see Carol hug Sosha, this is the first time she has embraced the joined. And, maybe I'm looking too deep into the tea leaves here, but Sosha had this face of like relief or like we did it. Kind of like this. And this is, again, up to interpretation. Like when you look at Sosha's face when she hugs Carol, it didn't feel like I missed you too. It was more of like, oh, thank goodness we got her there. Like we did it. We got Carol to love us. Like we broke her. So I could see it both ways.
Yeah, I love seeing Carol at the end of this because for me there was like there was something very interesting about the way that she finally made contact, which was, to me, it kind of felt like there could have been a very easy way to do this, which is like call and ask. But instead, she, did a method that, and this isn't like the most physically exhausting thing that she's done, but it was something that like really took time to do. And, she really had to think about, and it kind of felt a little bit like she was trying to atone for her actions, and that this was, to a certain extent, kind of like a form of penance, like a punishment that she was putting on herself of like doing this time-consuming act, doing something that is like, it's almost like when you had to like, write out a long apology, like you really did something wrong, and your parents are like, I want you to like write an apology about that and give it to that person. You can't just say, hey, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I know it's not like a full apology, but it felt a little bit in that direction where she was accepting some of what she had done and trying to show that she had changed. Like this wasn't just a call and saying, hey, I changed, you got to believe me. Like she's taking steps to show that she means it.
She put in effort. Like she could have hit 0, but she put in the actual effort to be like, come back. Yeah. And I think that that's ultimately like, I could see, if she called them up, one, she might feel too vulnerable. Like,
right.
She might break down, she's very like not great at expressing her emotions. So like that could have been part of the reason why she did that. But like also, putting in that effort of saying like, look, I need you back. And like she knew they would be there. And so ultimately, Now, I am curious though. Like, So back to Manousos a little bit. If Manousos wasn't so principled and he had made it to Carol in that day, when it was day 15, would she have felt so eager? And so that's the other thing, right? Like, why now I'm kind of back on the side of they weren't trying to do this, like to punish her, because there was one person trying to go to her and they said, we know you want to go to Carol. We'll take you to Carol tomorrow. Like you'll be there by the end of night. We'll bring your car with you. Like we'll give you that. And so if you were trying to completely isolate somebody to break them, would you bring them somebody that wants to see them? So that's where I go back and forth of like, are they really trying to break Carol? Because they were willing to bring Manousos right to her and not isolate her anymore.
But if they can see that Carol is breaking, like, wouldn't it be nice to send a message somehow saying, hey, this guy is trying to get to you. Like, you should look forward to that. This is somebody who, unlike the other survivors, he seems like he might be somebody on your side. Like, that'd be...
But they cut off
contact. So excited to...
I get it, but they could have
sent a little letter. You know, it didn't have to be. It didn't have to be somebody calling.
But if Manousos took them up on their offer, they would have brought her right to Carol, and then things might have been different. Yeah. Carol might not have broke, right? She might have had her ally, and the one person that has her back or is on the same wavelength, like he would have been there if he wasn't so principled.
I know.
That's so good.
They've been building up to this meeting for so long, and I'm really excited about it. And I don't know which way it's going to go. I feel like he is so far on the extreme, you know, the distance that like Carol is from Kumba. I kind of see Manousos that same distance from Carol, where she's okay with like using them.
Sure.
He is not at all. And then once again, I really do wonder about what his vision of saying is, because I just go back to, it really stuck with me, the line of nothing on this planet is yours. You don't belong here. Now, you could have explained that away of, you know, you mentioned that he could think that it's like devils, or even if it is aliens, like he thinks it's something foreign in them. And maybe he thinks he's speaking to that part, and he's like, sure, that's what he's saying doesn't belong there. But there is part of me that kind of wonders whether or not he has written off that portion of humanity. And he's like, they're not humans anymore. Whatever they are is not that. And that's why he doesn't engage. He could potentially be the real antagonist to Carol if he doesn't agree with the fact that they, like, maybe he is trying to stop her.
I don't think he's trying to stop her, because he practiced his line where he says, my name is Manousos. I'm not one of them. I wish to save the world. So he does seem like he has that intent of like, he wants to fix this. Because again, what started his mission in the first place is Carol told him that it can be changed. It can be reversed. I feel like he does have that intent of wanting to change it. But it does create this new dynamic that if Carol is broken and is now like, actually, this is the way life is, and now I do like the join, there can be this antagonistic rivalry between them. Like, she might be like, I'm so broken, like I can't jeopardize losing the contact with them anymore because it was so painful for the last month I was alone. And then Manousos gets there and he's like, we got to change this. And now she's like, wait, you hung up on me, buddy. Like, you kicked me to the curb. Like, why would I take your help? So like, now I do see this new antagonistic relationship that could form just based on where Manousos is at, but which we don't even know, because like, what has he been doing in this month period after he almost died in the gap? So
right,
we don't know where he's at anymore. We don't know what's happened to him, what he's trying to do. Like, has he just been in recovery for a month, or what? Is he going to make it to Carol? What will that dynamic be? And I think this is a great point to ask our audience. What do you think the dynamic will be? Do you think Manousos is going to try to change everybody? Do you think he's going to team up with Carol? What are your thoughts? It's wild.
The other thing that makes me kind of wonder about the others' intentions is the title of the next episode. You know, when the current episode comes out is when they finally release the like title, thumbnail, and description for the next episode. Okay. And the next one is called Charm Offensive.
Charm Offensive. Okay.
I mean, that sounds like weaponized kindness. That sounds like, you know, like an offensive is like, it's an attack. That can be like in sports, you know, it doesn't have to be an attack that like does damage. It is still an attack, and it is like against somebody's defense, and it is with the goal of winning is kind of the way I take offensive.
But it also could be referring to Carol, that she has been in their bad graces in a way, and now she's trying to charm them into being like, I am a changed person. I do care about you guys. I do respect you. And so she's putting on charm, and that's her offensive move towards the join. So like, we don't know who the charm offensive is. It could be Manousos trying to charm Carol. Like, there is a lot of we just don't know.
Yeah.
And there's only 2 episodes left.
I need more of this. I'm so glad that they signed a 2-year contract.
Thank God.
If you enjoyed our conversation about Carol finally reconnecting with the others, then we think you'll appreciate this video breaking down the previous episode, and we talk about a theory about how we think the others can still turn Carol.